Hello everyone, I wanted to do a quick video here on some tips and tricks to help make Excel a little bit easier to use and give you some insight on how to make the most out of editing it. I find any software package becomes a lot more useful to you if you know how to interface with it at a faster way and an easier way, so the more intuitive it becomes. So some of the things to consider: first and foremost, editing tricks. If I wanted to say, for instance, edit one of these formula bars or any of these cells, I can go up to the formula bar up here and you'll see that the formula that is plugged in here is presented. I can click in it and edit appropriately. The nice thing is I can actually move the references cells around, and allows me to edit the formula more visually rather than just on the keyboard, which can also be fairly useful. Alternatively, if you're more keyboard centric or like to use the keyboard, you can hit F2 and then edit directly from here again. You can type in the numbers or still use the cursor option. I like using F2 because it does actually display the equation within the cell, which I find sometimes is easier to edit and debug than looking back and forth between the formula bar and the table or whatever data set you have that's there. Alternatively, sometimes you may want to display the equations that are present in the cell rather than just the text or the value that's there. You can do that by actually holding down the control button and the tilde button key that's right next to the 1. When you do that, it represents all the equations in the table slide that's available, and you can go back and forth and you can see the equations that way. It's a very useful way to potentially print out the equations if you want. Alternatively, and the one way I like to do it is you can go into the cell. Now you'll notice if I wanted to copy and paste this, say for example, and have out here the equation that I used in this cell type, I can do that by going into the text, hitting F2, and at the beginning of the line, if I hit the tilde key right next to the enter button in most keyboards and hit enter, you'll notice that tilde goes away, but now the cell represents this as a text field rather than a formula bar, and it will treat it as text. Same thing can be said for a number. If I enter in a number, you'll notice the number gets placed as a number. If I put a tilde there, it now treats it as a text value. It's just a simple trick that allows you to have both. Now you may notice one thing that's important here. In this equation, it's not actually the same equation. This says D6, E6, and this was moved over one because I copied the cell and moved the cell over. And that's going to move the cell reference with its position. However, if I want to copy and paste the exact equation, then I can go up to the formula bar, highlight the entire formula, and do Control-C to copy it. And now, when I enter it in here, it's no longer copying the cell, but rather the text that's within the cell. And I can then go back into put the tilde in front of there, and you get your equation present. One thing you'll notice is in that copy and paste, this also copied the formatting that was here, meaning you have this little extra bar here that you might not have wanted to be there. So I'm going to erase this line, go back to square one. I can, if I wanted to copy the text, it's going to again just copy the text and you don't have that edited document anymore. But let's say we wanted to copy this cell and we just wanted to copy the formula. Well, we can right click in there, go to paste special, and you have a lot of shortcuts here that you can read, but in the end they're all contained in here, that I can actually select what it is I want to be copied and what I don't want to be copied. In this case, I can have the values where it's just the number without a formula anymore, or in this case just the formula, and you'll see that it just copied that. None of the formatting came along with it. And so those are some editing tricks. Really quickly, navigation tricks. This is probably not very needed useful on a table this small, but sometimes we'll have data sets where you might have 1,000 lines of data entry that could be 1,000 by 1,000, and you can imagine moving to a certain spot or moving above and below the table can be somewhat tricky and tedious. So one way you can quickly navigate some of these documents is through using arrow keys and control keys. So if I wanted to, say, move to the top of this table, I can click all the way up here one by one, or I could hold on the control key, click down, and it'll move down to the nearest location on the table, the end of the table. If I hit Control arrow down again, it'll go to the end of the Excel document, which you'll notice is in cell 1,048,576. I can go back up to that cell, go to the top of the table, and go to the top. And this will simply navigate, the control arrow keys will always navigate to the nearest set of data. So if I went to Control up, Control up, Control up, Control up, it'll allow me to move within the tables pretty rapidly, instead of having to try to rely on using the mouse and scrolling through the scroll bars to get to certain locations. It can be a little bit faster. Similarly, I can use that same trick to select the entire data set. I can say Control Shift down, and you'll notice it selects the entire column. I can Control Shift arrow across, and it'll select that entire table. It just in 2 clicks I can select the entire table to highlight, rather than trying to do select the top of the cell and move all the way to the bottom. Again, not very helpful when you have such a small table, but as this gets larger, it does make navigating within Excel a lot easier. So I think we'll end from there. I will try to, throughout the rest of the class or the videos, as I think of little tricks and so forth to use, I'll throw that into to these videos and as sides to help you learn how to navigate and use Excel in the best way possible. But thanks a lot, and talk to you later.